Today, so we have Ashley Ohstrom from the Department of Food Science, and we also have Jamie Spychalla from the Department of Plant Pathology and Environmental Microbiology.
Thank you for the introduction. Jamie and I were the first interns to with the partnership with the Health Microbiome Center and QIAGEN. So we were in Germany this summer. So first, just a little introduction. Again, my name's Ashley. I'm in the Department of Food Science. I'm advised by Dr. Wee and Dr. Kobach. And my work works on characterizing sourdough microbiome diversity and its influence on bread quality and nutrition. And I did my undergrad here at Penn State, and that's when I found the Health Microbiome Center. So I've now been a member for over 2 years.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a 5th-year PhD candidate in Dr. Sharifa Crandall's lab in plant pathology. And my research focuses on studying sour rot, which is a polymicrobial disease on wine grapes that involves both yeast and acetic acid bacteria. And I'm interested in how microclimate and geography and management practices drive what microbes we see in certain areas. All right, so we were able to do this internship due to a really cool partnership between QIAGEN and Penn State. QIAGEN, a little bit about them, they're a leading global provider of various technologies such as sample prep, molecular diagnostics, and their #1 clientele service is us, academic researchers. They have around 500,000 customers globally, and their motto is taking biological samples and transferring that into valuable molecular insights. And like I had mentioned earlier, the internship was made possible by a Penn State QIAGEN collaboration that was launched around this time last year.
So now a little bit about our internship. So this question was the first thing that was on the application that was sent out last year. And both me and Jamie immediately saw that, and we're really excited about this opportunity. So we spent 6 weeks, so from June to August this summer, and we were at QIAGEN's research and development facility in Hilden, Germany. And we got hands-on experience in research and development. We collaborated with industry experts, and we worked on specific projects and technologies that we're going to be telling you about. So first, off to Germany. Jamie and I, we got on our flights, made it over there safe and sound. Immediately when we got off the plane, Dominic, who's the head of the microbiome product development team there, picked us up from the airport. We got a tour of QIAGEN, a little jet-lagged, but it was still good.
A lot jet-lagged.
We got laptops, we got full key cards to get us into the buildings. We saw our lab spaces. We each got very nice desks with some of the other microbiome product development team members. What was really nice is the QIAGEN facility is not just one building with one lab, and it's an entire campus. So there's scientists there, there's some engineers there, there's marketing people there, there's people who do all different roles in the company. So one of the best parts was that they had a huge canteen, a lunch area where everyone would come together. So we weren't only interacting with the scientists and the people on our team, but we got to interact with people from all different areas in the company. We got to eat a lot of German traditional food, which this is a picture of currywurst. So it's bratwurst that also has curry ketchup and minced onions on it. And one of the most exciting things was Wednesday was always Friday. So there was always fries, and always served with a side of mayo. So that was people's favorite day. People got really excited when it was Friday or Wednesday to go to Friday. And then we each got our own space in the lab. So we had our own bench that we were in charge of and where we did our experiments. All the labs were super well organized. We each got nice lab coats, got our own area and within the team. And then Jamie and I each had a different project with different team members that we worked with in the lab space. And then, of course, there was lots of fun things we got to do on the weekend, which I'll share more about in a little bit. But one of the most exciting things was over the summer, around that time when we were there, the Euros were happening. So the huge football competition in Europe. And this year was actually hosted in Germany. So there was football matches all around different cities in Germany, including ones that we were close to. So there was lots of German pride. People were very excited. And definitely some of our colleagues were either really happy or really sad some of the days when Germany lost. So yeah, that was really nice, a really cool culture there. And everyone was very excited all the time.
Yeah, so diving into the projects, I was on a team that focused on developing a DNA extraction kit for the microbiome in very low bacterial biomass samples. And I was sort of tasked with a subset of this project looking at how do we remove eukaryotic host DNA in these kits. So I was under a project scientist who I chatted with a lot, and we designed projects in which we tested the efficacy of various concentrations of nucleases to deplete the host DNA after eukaryotic specific lysis. And we then tested the efficacy of various conditions to activate that enzyme so it wouldn't chew up the bacterial DNA downstream. And I got to use lots of cool technologies to validate these efficacies. For instance, I got to use qPCRs on these really cool QIAGEN specific rotarod thermocyclers that I'd never worked with before. They were really cool. You had to like put your qPCR samples in sort of like a circle wheel thing.
And then a little bit about my project. So I was working with the DNAZ Power Soil Pro Kits, which I'm sure many of you have used before. So we were working on automating and optimizing this process. So as many of you guys know, with DNA extraction, you have to sit at the lab bench the whole time. It takes a couple hours. It's a very manual process. So for this, instead, we were working with an automated extraction system, which is this machine right there. It was really cool because in around an hour, I didn't have to touch anything, put my samples in, and then I had diluted DNA. So we did this by using a specific inhibitor in DNA binding beads. So first, you just had to do that first initial lysis step, and then you would add in these inhibitor binding beads, so they would bind up all the stuff in the soil that you didn't want. And then after, we would add DNA binding beads that would bind up your DNA, so you could have a perfect plate that has all your eluted DNA on it. And then a little bit kind of when I was doing with the optimization is, so we had a bunch of different inhibition beads. So I was trying to see which ones work the best, and using many different soil types. We wanted to see, did certain beads work better with some soil types than others? And we also looked at different buffer concentrations for this process too. And then we did a lot of downstream analysis to see if the results compared to when you do the manual process. So kind of just like a quick little protocol is we had our soil sample, I added in the inhibition beads, we ran it in the automated DNA extractor. So it ran for about 15 minutes first, then we added those DNA binding beads, then it runs for 45 minutes, and you have your eluted DNA plate. And then I did downstream analysis, I did nanodrop, qPCR, and qubit to see if the DNA quality and amount was comparable to when you did the manual process. So just some reflections on our internship is that one of the main reasons Jamie and I both wanted to do this internship is that we hadn't had an internship in industry before. And we learned what it was like to work in the industry as a PhD. It really made us see that this was a viable option for us after graduating. And then especially for me, I feel like I experienced a lot of personal and professional growth. This was the farthest I've ever and longest I've ever been away from home, especially being somewhere where I didn't speak the language, and Jamie did. And so,
yeah, that was fun. Yeah, yeah. And certain things I didn't think of, like how to buy train tickets. I'm like, yeah. Another thing that we sort of reflected on was just like the lasting connections we built over this summer. You know, like after we left, everyone was like, oh, keep in touch if you're ever in the neighborhood. But then Dominic actually came back to State College this fall, and he made time to meet up with Ashley and I for coffee, which was really nice.
And of course, we had many new cultural experiences, which the next slide will show you a bunch of the fun stuff we got to do, science, all the cool science stuff. And just overall, this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it was all thanks to the One Health Microbiome Center in collaboration with QIAGEN. Okay, so now
wasn't all work, we got to play too.
Yes. So Hilden is where we were for the internship. It's a small town. It's right outside of Dusseldorf. So we were close to a big city, but we were in a small town. It was really nice. It had everything we needed there. We could walk everywhere. And this was kind of this main little plaza here, and every single different colored umbrella was a different restaurant. So Jamie and I made it a point to try the food at every single restaurant in the town.
Cologne was very nearby. It was weekend trippable. And one thing that's really cool about Cologne is they have a regional beer called a Kolsch. And in like the beer halls there, you can sort of see it right here. That's what the glasses are. They're these really short little glasses, and pretty much you don't even have to ask. They keep pouring more beer in there, and they sort of, on that coaster, they tick down a tally mark of how many times they've refilled it. And when you're done, you just take that coaster and you put it on top of your beer, and that means no more beer for me. Cologne also has a lot of really cool tourist attractions. One of the most famous is the cathedral. And we also took a river cruise on the Rhine, which was really fun.
And then this was a recommendation from a coworker, actually, which was very cool because we would have never found this town if it wasn't for the recommendation. So we went to a medieval town called Zones, very small. It's still completely surrounded by a wall. There's even a royal family there. There's this really old windmill that was super cool that they used to use to mill and grind flour. And one of the cool things we got to try there, which is another Germany famous dish, is spaghetti ice. So it's ice cream that looks like spaghetti. So the ice cream is in the shape of noodles, and then it has a strawberry sauce and white chocolate chips on the top. Wow.
Yeah, and Düsseldorf was another town that was really close by, closer than Cologne. Like lots of people that work at QIAGEN commuted in. And so we grabbed drinks with colleagues one day after work. That's the bottom photo. And while we were there was also a festival called Kermis, which is sort of like a county fair, and there was lots of rides and junk food, and we checked that out one day with colleagues as well.
Yeah, and at the end, it had a huge fireworks show that was really cool to see as well. And then finally, our last weekend, we went to the Netherlands and we went to Amsterdam. We got to tour Heineken. We ate a lot of seafood. Got to see all the bikes. We didn't get hit by any of the bikes, which was good. And that was just really great. There was also so many other places that were close by. Even when we were there, the Olympics was happening in Paris, so it was difficult. We couldn't really make it to Paris, but there's so many other places that we could go to and where. And then kind of thank you guys for listening. We just like to acknowledge everyone on the QIAGEN team and the One Health Microbiome Center team. And everyone who helped us get there and who made the experience so amazing. And so thank you to the One Health Microbiome Center and the QIAGEN collaboration. And thank you guys for listening. And also the applications for next year's internship are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So please look out for that. Definitely apply. The application isn't too difficult. It's not a ton of work. It's just an experience that can really change, I feel like, your future career, and definitely consider applying to it. Ooh.
Anyone has any questions? We can start off with trainees.
So I was wondering, the location for the internship, is it always outside of the US or does it change? Do you guys know anything about that?
I can answer that. So we have set up the internship specifically with the R&D director at this facility in Germany, but we're starting to talk with the facility that's in Maryland. And so we might be able to set up an internship there, but it's not finalized yet. So in the future, there could be a US-based internship as well, but this is our flagship one.
Thank you.
I'm curious, so let's see, it's a 6-week internship, and that's 6 weeks that you're not working on your PhD research during the summer, which is usually very productive. Tell me what you think about the trade-off between those 6 weeks working there and the 6 weeks in the lab. Did it set you back a little bit? Is it a huge advantage despite that? Tell me about that. Tell me about the value.
I'd say it depends sort of on what stage you're in. Like, in plant pathology, like those summers are very precious because that's your field season. But I knew that, if I had been in state college that summer, it would have been a summer of writing and data analysis. So I wasn't losing field season per se. So I guess you have to be strategic on when you apply to something like this. I don't think it set me back that much because like when I was done, in the evening, I'd write a little, I'd analyze my data a little, I brought my laptop with me.
Yeah, I think same for me, kind of the stage I was at in my research. I definitely, if I was here, would have done a lot of experiments over the summer, but I convinced my PIs to let me go. And kind of while I was there, you were working the full time through the week, but there were a lot of waiting periods too. So we even had time, I was doing some data analysis. After this, I also went to a conference in the Netherlands, so I was making a poster, and it never felt like too much time. We were still had time in our work week to work on our other stuff as well. So I think you definitely need to convince your PI to let you go, but 6 weeks isn't super long. I still had the first half and kind of the second half of the summer. It worked well for my project, and I still got to, it was easy there I was working on writing and a lot of data analysis, so it worked out really well.
What was one of the most surprising things you learned about working in industry that you didn't know about before?
I think for me, I was very surprised that it was honestly very similar to academia. We didn't have a set time to come in. It was mostly, we were kind of given our projects and we had guidance, but we planned out what we wanted to do. If we wanted to come in early at 7 a.m. and then leave earlier in the day, or if we came in at 9 and then leave later, it really was that we had a team that helped guide us, but a lot of this stuff and ideas could come from us and we could really work on the project on our own. So that was a little surprising to me, but in a good way, because it's something that I'm used to and I like. So I really enjoyed that, but yeah, that was surprising.
I guess one thing that sort of surprised me was sort of the architecture, like the lab spaces, pretty much you had to like swipe your ID to buzz in, but then like all the labs have the same sort of goal for the company. And so like different machines were in different rooms and there were no doors. So sort of like you buzzed in and then after that, it was just like
Very
walls with
open,
open,
yeah.
it was very open architecture, yeah.
Thank you guys. We're proud of what you did because you were pioneers in this process. We didn't know how good it was going to be until you told us. So congratulations and thank you for that. I'm wondering, in addition to the spaghetti ice that you seem to like, what else would you bring back to the center, to Penn State, that you thought was different, whether it was equipment, skill sets, workflows, culture, what stuck out to you as something you would want to share with us?
For me, I really liked their process of, I'm a very organized person, and I really like how they organize their lab notebooks, and then also had online copies or digital copies. And actually I started doing a lot of that process with my own lab book. They make all their protocols actually on Excel sheets, and then you print them out and you paste them in your lab notebook along with all your already analyzed results. And you even put in on the top, there's like this whole thing, we write in the name, your experiment, the dates you did it, and it was just very organized. So if anyone ever needed to, because I mean, they're a huge company and there's obviously tons of experiments and stuff going on, but it was never hard to find what you needed. And I really liked that, just how organized and nice it was. And I started doing that with my own lab book and experiments actually as well.
Nice. Awesome. Jane?
Yeah. So the question was sort of like, what would we from industry bring back? Yeah.
Was there something different that you'd like to bring back to the center, to Penn State, to your own work?
The organization was a big one. I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
Lunch with everybody.
Well, that is true. Like, yeah, there was a very big social component. Like people sort of planned their experiments around lunch. And it was sort of like, oh, we're all going to lunch. And sort of there was real sort of camaraderie at work. We'd all like have lunch, but it was a very efficient lunch. Like, oh,
Nobody's
it's our
allowed
half
to-
an hour. We finished eating our food. Let's go back.
Nobody's allowed to eat in the office, right? They all gotta, Awesome. Thank you.
Health?
I'm curious, did you had mentioned that when you first arrived, you met people from different branches of the organization, like marketing and sales. Did you continue interacting with them throughout the time? Like how integrated is a product development with the laboratory scientists?
Yeah, I think we missed maybe some of those other meetings, but we always had a team meeting, and then Jamie got to go to one of the other meetings, but it's all in German, so.
Yeah. With that meeting, it was sort of like the whole department was called sample prep, and we were on the microbiome team. And it's like everyone else that was working on some aspect of sample prep met in this large meeting where they were just talking about their yearly goals. For projects themselves, like there is a project manager and like a marketing person assigned, and like the scientists we worked with interacted with those folks more regularly than we did as interns. But there was a technician that we worked with. She was just a social butterfly. She knew everyone, and she'd introduce us to, marketing folks and, just everyone. And so we had a lot of conversations throughout the internship continuously with people because we were hanging out with Sylvia.
Yeah. And we also got to do a production tour of their whole entire production facility. So that was really cool. That's a whole nother side of it. We got to interact with some of the people there and how different their job is compared to in the building next door and the scientists in the lab versus running a whole department of making certain chemicals buffers, putting the kits together and stuff like that. So we got to interact with a lot of people, I think because we were there for the internship and that's what they wanted, but also within our little team, there was all these different levels that people interacted with all the way up.
How did having this experience change your outlook into going into the job market? So where was your head at before you went, and where is your head at?
For me, I, as an undergrad, I did a lot of my undergrad during COVID and I never had an industry internship. I just started doing undergraduate research. And I always liked the idea of working in industry, but I also was torn between academia and industry. So I went into it kind of very unsure where my future career path would maybe go. And this definitely really solidified that I could see myself working in industry and for a company like this. And for me, it kind of gave me like a little ease that I was like, oh, I can do this. I can go after I get my degree and work in industry and be something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, same sort of for me. Like I thought like before I applied to sort of any industry science positions, it would be really cool to sort of dip my toes in the water and see what it was like. Having this experience, I wasn't like, oh my goodness, I love this so much more than academia. I see myself really applying to both academic and industry science roles in the futures and just knowing like I could do both and both seem like good options and whatever takes me, I'd be happy with.
Little bit of time left. Any last burning questions? So then let's thank